Hi, I'm Hillary.
I'm Milana, and this is Migrant Moods. Welcome to our first episode. Today, we are your hosts for this mini episode. The topic is the story of self. Story of self is a narrative tool which we use at We Belong. It was originally by Marshall Gans. It's useful in our campaigning as it allows us to share our individual and collective stories that inspire people into action and coach each other in the practice. It is an exploration of ourselves.
Our story of selves can differ depending on our various cultures, genders, and ages, but one thing we all share is that it's ours. And this is why we wanted to start by sharing our perspectives and invite you, as listeners, to start a dialogue with us so we can hear your experience or what you found interesting about learning about this topic. Despite us both being migrants with similar experiences, our story of selves are different, and we want to explore that in this podcast.
During my 20 years of living, I experienced a lot of different challenges, but for a long time, I couldn't feel that I really faced them or made the right choices. Most of the time, I was just going with the flow and avoided any problems or risks. Therefore, I couldn't feel any pride or satisfaction from my own responses to external and internal challenges. All of them seemed to be forced, and all of that was because of my mental state.
That was just a snippet of the story of self. Milana, what would you say is a story of self?
For me, a story of self is a story that defines my personal journey of growth. I was introduced to it for the first time at We Belong. During the gatherings that happen regularly, the young people who are involved at We Belong are encouraged to share their stories of self. They get help from the staff members and then they share it with the other people during the gathering.
As someone who's done the story of self, how did it feel?
It was definitely a good moment of reflection. I have said before that I've never come across something like this before, as I was not used to talking about my experiences a lot. Most of the time, I stayed silent and didn't reveal my story to a lot of people. So, having that task of reflecting back on my whole life and seeing the challenges that I faced, choices that I made, and consequently to what outcome did all of that lead at this moment of time was a hard experience. But it was necessary to become more aware of my own journey and growth.
So, you mentioned not feeling comfortable before, but how did you deal with the aftermath of offering your emotions to a random crowd of people?
It happened so that I've told my story of self twice, once during our online gathering and the second one quite recently on the first gathering in Manchester. I was looking forward to my second time as I felt very confident, but after I was emotionally exhausted. But I kept giving myself praise for doing it, so I have quickly recovered.
In your words, would you say with more practice you get better at expressing your story of self?
It gets better for me as I get less scared of public speaking, but I heard one of my friends say that she has told her story of self so many times that she doesn't feel so strongly about it anymore, so it became less emotional for her and more exhausting, I guess. Hillary, you are in the process of writing your story as you are going to share it during the next gathering in London, which is happening next week. Tell us how you are finding the idea of writing your story of self.
I feel anxious because I'm doing it next week and it's at the back of my mind. Like, I don't know if what I've gone through is bad enough or what specifically, I don't know, like what specific issue I want to focus on, I guess.
I can certainly relate to what you're saying. That's why it's so important to have a healthy mindset when approaching our individual stories. We can't compare ourselves to other people's stories. There is nothing good in comparison, and it's not a race or competition in their experiences.
How do you tackle this mindset?
I think it's the idea of being braver and forgetting about all the negative things that pull us down. For me, being part of a community of people that share similar experiences has really helped me, as they helped me to let go of my fears and encouraged me to tell my story and be myself.
In terms of preparing the story, how did you know what topic specifically you wanted to do your story yourself on?
It was really hard to formulate what I wanted to say, what the main message I wanted to convey through sharing it with others. I enjoyed writing my story the second time, as I already knew what I disliked in my first attempt. Also, the public narrative guide has really helped me. It mainly asks you to think about creating a structure in your story of challenge, choice, outcome. And each one of us has our own struggle and challenge, which then creates our unique journey. Also, how does it feel when other people share their stories of self? Hillary, you probably got to hear a lot of different stories from the people. So, how do you feel about this?
I would say that it obviously takes a lot of braveness because you're telling your most sacred, I guess, experience to random people, I guess. What did you find were the benefits when you told your story yourself?
It's a really nice reflection of self, and it gives you the chance to analyze everything you have experienced in order to appreciate yourself and give yourself praise for it.
Would you say that that also includes of how you've dealt with stuff?
Yes, definitely. The analysis gives you the space and time to evaluate yourself from a different perspective. You might be able to understand your past mistakes and take action to become better.
I feel like it takes a lot of courage, and also the story of self constantly changes. So you constantly need to reevaluate yourself because you're never the same person that you were yesterday or the day before you were a year ago. So why do you think it's important?
It's a unique experience. We are a generation which has learned not to talk about our feelings, which is a shame. But the story of self allows you to explore that and gives you that chance to allow yourself to experience everything you have gone through and, to just appreciate everything, analyze everything, and get better.
Well, if you want to know more about the story of self, there's always videos on Public Narrative which teach us about the story of self. And if you're interested in actually doing it, search up We Belong and get in touch by emailing info@webelong.org.uk. We'll learn to clear off this special mini episode. What has been the highlight of your week?
The highlight of my week was the time when I spent time with my mom playing badminton in a park. And it was, we had a lot of fun. It was so nice, and the weather was lovely. So, yeah, that was amazing. What about you, Hillary?
For me, it was just getting my work placement and finally going there. I feel like I had worked so hard for it, and it felt so rewarding to finally get it and do what I like doing, I guess. Thank you for listening, and watch out for our next episode.
For more info on this podcast, follow our sponsor on Insta at WeBelong19 and us, your host, at milana.bout and at ChampagneXCoco.
Join us next time on Migrant Moods. Bye!